Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, on behalf of great Afghanistan Movement, let me thank all my viewers around the world for watching my videos regularly. In my last video, I had explained you about the collapse and disintegration of Pakistan. My today's topic is Pakistan, the hell for the minorities. There are many theories on what the ideology of Pakistan was. The ground reality was that the driving force behind Pakistan's movement was the fight for the rights of minorities of India. And hence, the ideology of Pakistan is to protect its minorities in order to prove its existence. According to Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the Muslims were in minority and the Hindus were in majority in India, so they wanted a separate country to protect the Muslims. Dear friends, confronted with a mass influx of refugees, a panic-stricken Muslim League leadership in Karachi told Indian Muslims that the new state was not intended for all Muslims but only those from East Punjab. The Muslims in Delhi and Uttar Pradesh, UP, should stay where they were. This was bluntly asserted by Pakistan's first Prime Minister, Liaquat Ali Khan, who himself belonged to UP gentry. What he really meant was that there was no place for middle and lower middle class Muslims from the named regions. Jinnah, the so-called founder of Pakistan, thought of Pakistan as a smaller version of India with one small difference, that the Muslims would be a majority. He had not thought of asking himself why Hindus and Sikhs should now accept what he had refused to, living under Hindu majority. A majority of ruling Pakistani politicians had grown up serving the British. Like their old mentors, they regarded ordinary people with a mixture of repugnance and fear. Small wonder that senior civil servants and military officers, true heirs of the departed colonial power, treated the politician with contempt. However, unlike the Indian National Congress, no general and civil servant had been involved in the political and national struggle against the British. In contrast, they had been serving as the loyalists of the British. Dear friends, the emergence of Pakistan was not to be the eternal enemy of India or to have influence in Afghanistan. It was merely to protect the minorities. But Pakistan is the hell for the minorities and they have no rights in Pakistan. Pakistan is ranked among the worst states to live in for minorities. So Jinnah and Pakistan are failed miserably. Jinnah's Pakistan died on March 26, 1971 when East Bengal drowned in the blood. Pakistan has passed into the hands of intolerable bigots. Jinnah's Pakistan has turned into a killing field of minorities at the hands of the fanatics to prove that Jinnah was horribly wrong. Especially with the passage of the objective resolution on March 12, 1949, the fate of minorities in Pakistan was sealed forever. Dear friends, there is a barrier, the size of the Great Wall of China, that prevents minorities from becoming successful citizens in Pakistan. The wall has been raised by legal and social measures that persecute and discriminate against the minorities. The majority Muslim population has been hijacked by a significant number of hardline religious leaders and their followers, who has made life for the minorities a living hell. They use mass loudspeakers for telling them that they will inevitably go to hell in their afterlife. Dear friends, Pakistan is a living hell for Hindus, Ahmadis, Sikhs, Shias, and Christians. They are the victims of religious bigotry, hate, and intolerance in that notorious so-called Islamic nation. Pakistan is in the hands of fanatical jihadis, bigots, and murderers who are not prepared to let anyone to live, who are not insane with their dogmas and beliefs. Murder is their tool of trade and bloodletting is their creed. Not to mention, Pakistan non-Muslim minorities, these terrorists are not even in favor of letting the sizable Shia community of Muslims live or survive as citizens in Pakistan. Walk-checking in every major city of Pakistan has made denouncing the Shias for years non-believers, who should be removed from the face of Pakistan under religious injunctions. Hundreds of Shias have been mercilessly butchered in targeted killings in Pakistan. The so-called founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was also a non-practicing Shia. In the real sense, he was not even a believer. He was just a British agent and nothing else. In the Gilgit-Baltistan province, the bus was stopped by the terrorists. 21 Shias were separated from the rest of the passengers and they were then shot in cold blood. This was not the first and last massacre of Shias. The Shias are being targeted by fanatical terrorists of the Taliban or their Pakistani templates, Sipahi Sahaba or Lashkar-e-Jang. Ladies and gentlemen, a recent survey by the Washington Post Pew Research Center found that 50% of Sunnis in Pakistan believed Shias to be non-Muslim. This contrasts sharply with even Afghanistan, where 83% of Sunnis accept Shias as Muslims. It is an abundantly documented fact that authorities in Pakistan have established a systematic discrimination and brutal oppression of its minority Shia population for years. Shias in Pakistan face the possibility of sheer sectarian cleansing which is being perpetrated by wretched individuals who wrongfully label this minority group as infidels that must be eliminated by swords. Dear friends, we are talking about a humanitarian disaster that the world is simply not willing to hear about. The Shia Hazara victims of bomb blasts and attacks are asking for basic human rights in the most peaceful tone. They do not carry any weapons, not even to defend themselves. Because of this, I want to appeal to listeners all over the world. No matter what your political persuasions, no matter what your ethnic denominations, no matter what religion you prescribe to, but we need to put a stop to this tragedy. I don't understand what is happening with the international community. Why don't we have people strongly condemning the atrocious violence that is taking place on the streets of Quetta, Balochistan each night? I appeal to the international community, to the human rights organization, to anyone who holds anything sacred, holds any ideas, or has any sense of ethical morality. save the people of Quetta from terrorism, save them from hell on the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, while all minorities in Pakistan are under threat, the country has turned as an inferno for them. They have only two options: either converting to Islam or quitting the country. Seems it only of their survival. In Pakistan, the Islamization is based on persecution, hatred, inequality in law, and instead of democratization, you have a nation where minorities reside in fear. It therefore appears that women can be gang raped in Pakistan. Christians can be killed by blasphemy. The Ahmadiyya face systematic persecution and mass hatred. The Shia are deemed non-Muslim by Sunni Islamic zealots. Pashtun and Baloch fighting for their freedom are killed by Pakistan Army and ISI, and terrorist attacks are frequent every day in Pakistan. The destruction of Hinduism and Sikhism took place because of hatred, persecution, and bigotry. Pakistan, it is about Islam, Islamic Sharia law, and discrimination against non-Muslim minorities. The reality of the situation in Pakistan should be a wake-up call to the entire world. The traces of Hindu tolerance have been replaced by Islamic fanatics who are bent on persecuting all minorities, keeping women downtrodden, and hating diversity. Ladies and gentlemen, almost 3/4 of women from Pakistan's Hindu community have faced sexual harassment, while nearly half complained of religious discrimination at workplace, educational institutions, and neighborhood. A report prepared by the National Commission for Justice and Peace in Pakistan states that about 74% of the Hindu women faced sexual harassment. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan was created as an Islamic nation in 1947, and religious minorities are treated as second-class citizens under the country's Islamic laws. Over the years, hundreds of thousands of Hindus have been converted by force to Islam, and many more have been forced to flee the country. In 1971 alone, the Pakistani army was blamed for the genocide of over 1 million of Hindus in East Pakistan, present-day Bangladesh. Hindus in Pakistan have been subjected to rampant human rights abuses and severe restrictions on their religious freedom since the creation of the Islamic State of Pakistan. Systematic legal and institutional discrimination, kidnappings, physical attacks and intimidation, rapes, forced conversion to Islam, and forced marriages of Hindu girls to Muslim men, which have vastly diminished the Hindu population from approximately 25% to 2% in the last 65 years. Living in Pakistan is a pure hell, says the wife of an Indian personnel, also amongst those expelled. Dear friends, the children take the dog for a walk, they are followed. You go for a haircut, you are followed. Beside the constant shadowing, there is the isolation. Local don't socialize with them. In fact, the aggressive surveillance is partly to discourage locals from getting too friendly with the Hindus. You have to watch what you are doing, where you are going, what you are talking. It is oppressive for the children too. The Pakistani children are told not to meet Hindu children. If Pakistani friends come over, their parents are harassed. The increasing trend of complaints by Hindu traders and families that their shops are looted, houses ransacked, women forcibly converted to Islam, and kidnappings taking place for ransom. which paints a sorry picture of the troubles faced religious minority communities in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, in Balochistan, Hindus are leaving their ancestral homes, sometimes moving to India or going to large urban cities like Karachi and Quetta because of the threats and difficulties they face in their day-to-day life. As religious minorities in Pakistan have been made to feel insecure and are given no help or protection by the country's government, many are left with no option but to reluctantly leave the nation. The recent rise in Islamic fundamentalism in throughout Pakistan and the government's inability and unwillingness to protect Hindus has created an atmosphere of fear and insecurity which deprive Hindus of their basic rights to live in the land of their forefathers. Jyotirnath Mandal, Law Minister of Pakistan, and Sir Zafrullah Khan, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, after the partition, became quite disillusioned when, after Jinnah's death, the Constituent Assembly went to declare the newborn country an Islamic state and limiting its leadership only to be preserved for Muslims. Both, and especially Mandal, became quite vocal and advocated the need for a secular nation. Their voice fell to deaf ears. Mandal was pushed aside and had to leave his ministry. His resignation letter paints a gloomy picture of how violence against Hindu was neglected and the authorities failed to catch the culprits. Dear friends, according to the Pakistan Hindu Council, a social organization in Pakistan, and the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, at least 25 Hindu girls are reported kidnapped and forcibly converted to Islam each month in Pakistan. However, when considering the number of cases that go unreported, the actual number of Hindu girls kidnapped every month is significantly higher. Minorities have been increasingly victimized since the creation of Pakistan till now. Although Pakistan is called Mumlakati Khudadad, which means a land given by God. But minority are insecure in this land, which is given to them by God. Minorities are always seen as a sign of disrespect, which is a very bad behavior because God gave them this land, but they were not given their rights. Dear friends, Sunni Muslim fanatics have turned on fellow Muslims, and moderate Sunni leaders who speak out also face death and persecution. Therefore, in modern day Pakistan, many mosques belonging to the Ahmadiyya, the Shia, and Sufi religious places are being attacked and destroyed by the fanatics of Sunni Islam. In Pakistan, the Islamization of society means more hatred, more persecution, and keeping firmly women and children in the hell. Pakistan is a land of institutional religious discrimination, and the central government is weak because of internal Islamic chaos which is turning on itself. After all, the only thing that appears to bind Muslim conservatives in Pakistan is hatred, and this hatred is unleashed against non-Muslims and Muslim minorities like the Ahmadiyya and Shia. Pakistan is moving backward, and non-Muslims and minority Muslims face the wrath of Sunni Islam. The mullahs cleverly twist Quranic injunctions to justify all kinds of horrible atrocities against its defenseless minorities. Dear friends, the matter has been made even more convoluted due to two laws which justify persecution of minorities who are considered second-class citizens in Pakistan. The first, which made Islam the state religion of Pakistan, was drafted in 1973. It proposed a separate electorate for Muslims and other minorities and said Hindu can vote only for Hindu candidates. The other one is the blasphemy law, which was passed during the reign of Ziaul-Haq, the Pakistani dictator. The law gave a convenient cover to anyone who wished to kill, murder, abduct any member of a religious minority. The matter is made worse by the Pakistani school curriculum, whose books foster hatred against Hindus, branding them the eternal enemies of Islam. A hold of 250 Hindus arrived from Pakistan on tourist visa. Many of them, after entering the Indian border, promptly claimed that they had no intention of returning to Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, how to treat the minorities? Pakistan has failed the test in all fronts, which at the same time served as a wake-up call of the dangers of growing religious intolerance in Pakistan. Such is the power of the religious lobbies that no government dares challenge them. Each wake-up call is soon forgotten until another injustice against religious minorities punches its way to the surface. Pakistan blasphemy laws were used to intimidate and harass religious minorities through false accusations. A few weeks after the governor of Punjab, Tasir's murder, Shahbaz Bhatti, a junior minister of religious affairs hailing from the Christian minority of Pakistan, was likewise gunned down again in the capital, Islamabad. Bhatti's crime was that he proposed amendments in the blasphemy law. The latest was the sentencing to death for blasphemy of a Pakistani Christian woman, Asia Bibi, who had been working in the fields in Punjab province when she was sent to fetch water. When she returned, some Muslim women refused to drink it, saying it was unclean because it had been carried by a Christian. As the argument escalated, police became involved and Asia Bibi was charged with blasphemy for allegedly insulting Islam. After a year in jail, she was convicted and sentenced to become the first woman to be hanged for blasphemy in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, on September 18, 2013, in a village Saywal Toba Tiksing, a Christian young girl, Iqra Siddiq, was allegedly detained for 4 policemen and a private citizen, Arif Gujar. On July 28, 2013, after she denied to their demand of fornication with them, they broke open the door and entered her house, brutally torturing her with extreme cruelty. All the accused policemen and the private person dragged her out of her house and they threw her the yard, kicking, slapping, and punching the young girl. The policemen, Javed and Arif Gujar, tore her clothes and she became completely naked in front of a large crowd in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Another Christian boy, Bhuta Masih, went to meet his friend in market, where the Muslim Muhammad Arif kicked him on ground and attacked him with knife. After injuring Bhuta Masih, Muhammad Arif cut his throat and killed him at spot. After slicing throat of Bhuta Masih in front of shopkeepers and traders, the killers waved his knife in air, standing on dead body, shouted, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, God is great, God is great. I have killed an infidel blasphemer," and walked away. There were dozens of Muslims gathered at spot, but no one stepped forward to stop killer and none tried to rescue Bhuta Masih. Dear friends, students in the education institutions are publicly ridiculed or even beaten by teachers because of their faith. An 11-year-old Nadia Iftikhar was severely beaten by her teacher when the girl said that she was both a Pakistani and a Christian. Before thrashing her, the teacher shouted at Nadia that according to the school textbook, all Pakistanis are Muslims. Dear friends, the young minorities women, including teenagers, are being kidnapped, raped, forced to convert Islam, and marry their abductors. Those who resist are killed, and their parents are harassed by reporting the cases to the police, who turn a blind eye to the perpetrators of such crimes. A minority member of Provincial Assembly of Punjab, Shahzad Elahi, speaking during the Punjab Assembly session, that Punjab province had become a living hell for minorities. Elahi said that the government of Punjab had made the demolition of churches its mission. The MPA said that the Bible had been discredited during the demolition and the glasses of the church had also been smashed. Dear friends, Pakistani police forced an Ahmadi family to exhume the body of a relative because it was buried in a Muslim graveyard. The government will not and dare not repeal the laws which leave Pakistan's minorities vulnerable. These are clearly signs of backwardness. When things drift in the backward direction, primitive mindset sits in and people are controlled by ultra-conservative minded people. Dear friends, millions were displaced, slaughtered, and women were kidnapped, raped in the forming of Pakistan. But Pakistan has become the epicenter of extremism, terrorism, and hell for the minorities. Quetta Shura gives ISI free freedom fighters for Afghanistan, Kashmir, and India, as well as not attacking Pakistan forces. Violence has taken the upper hand in that part of the world. State violence against the citizens, military and police violence against the civilians, violence of people against each other, reflecting different culture, language, and traditions, and massacre of minority is day-to-day activity in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, in Peshawar massacre, what was their fault? What possible sin did they commit? What could they possibly have done to deserve something so horrific to happen to them? The only fault they committed that they were Christians. They were not Muslims. They did not believe what the official Muslims of Pakistan believe in. Their fault is that they exist. Their fault is that they were born in Pakistan, the country which does not believe in the rights of minorities. Rather, it believes in the right to make their life a living hell. Their fault is that they are helpless. Their fault is that they are basically not Muslims. Dear friends, in Peshawar, the government has failed to provide adequate security to the minorities of Pakistan. Once again, people have died due to their beliefs. Men, women, and children for whom it was just an ordinary Sunday with ordinary church meetings have died merely because they went to church to practice their beliefs. They returned home without their loved ones. Many of them returned to empty homes, but heartbreakingly, many of them didn't return at all. All this commotion, all this haphazardness, all this chaos exists, but the government just sits and does nothing. The government fails to provide adequate security to its minorities. It also fails to prevent hate speech against the minorities, all of them including Christian, Hindus, Sikhs, Ahmadis, and Shias. It fails to give them their basic right, the right to live. No one can declare that any minority has been given that basic right because that would be an outright lie. All the government can do when something like this happens is to fake a sad face, look grim and condemn the attack and demand for the victims to be brought to justice. They won't take any action against any perpetrators. They even won't try to investigate the incident. Why? Because they are just the minorities. So I ask the government and the politicians and everyone who just gave a statement condemning the attack, what will condemning the attack do? The victims, they don't need your fake sympathies. They don't need your phony statement about condemnation. They don't need your stupid statements to the press. They need security. They need justice. They need to be assured that this will not happen again. Can you provide it? Can you promise them this won't happen again? How can you? When you don't even give a damn what happens to the minorities in Pakistan anyway. As long as no one hurts you and your family, why would you even care? Great Afghanistan Movement appeals the international community that justice and basic rights must be given to all minorities to be able to freely practice their religion. These minorities must be able to live without the fear of constantly look over their shoulders for someone who wants to kill them in the name of Islam. They just want guarantee that their all rights will be safeguarded and that they will be provided security. We demand justice for each and every person who has been affected by those monstrous attacks in the name of Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, 81 members of Christian community were killed in Peshawar. Just condemning an attack by the government will not do anything good for them. Will it bring their loved ones back? Will the perpetrators get what they deserve? Will the police even bother investigating? Or will they let it to be? Because after all, they are Christians, just a minority of Pakistan. This is not what Islam teaches. Islam is a religion of peace and love. It is not the religion of forcefulness, hatred, and bloodshed. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kalma was removed from an Ahmadi mosque in Sialkot. A massacre of Christians took place in Peshawar. What is next? Which minority is going to be targeted next? Shia, Hindu, Ahmadis, or back to Christians? This is never going to end. This will keep on going until the extremists wipe out every minority from Pakistan and then live in the land of power. This power land, which is now full of the blood of innocent men, women, and children. The same power land which all of these minorities helped to make. The same power land which now has no place for anyone except the religious extremists inciting hatred against minorities. The greedy politicians who only care about money and power. Christians mourn as they stand next to the coffins of their relatives. One of the wounded, John Tarek, who lost his father in the attack, asked of the attackers, "What have we done wrong to these people? Why are we being killed?" But on behalf of Great Afghanistan Movement, I want to tell you, Tarek, that your crime is that you are a national of a terrorist, extremist, and bloody state of Pakistan. That is your crime. To the attackers and the government, I say, you can kill people and murder them in the name of Islam. And you can condemn these incidents all you want. But God knows what is in your hearts. Fear the day when you will be judged in front of God for murdering innocent people. Fear the day when He encompasses you in His wrath, because no wrath is greater than His. Fear that day. Dear friends, according to the Justice and Peace Commission of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Pakistan, Pakistan is fast becoming a state that will be habitable only for extremists. In the latest annual report, the National Commission for Justice and Peace pointed out that religious bigots hold the view that only Muslims, as defined by them, have the right to live in this country and that all are infidel who deserve to be killed. The religious intolerance is certainly worsening, and that is what we are worried about. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan turned like hell for Ahmadis since 1974 when they were declared non-Muslims through the Second Amendment under the Zulfikar Ali Bhutto government. Defending the rights of the Ahmadiyya community is considered an anathema in Pakistan society. 6 minarets of an Ahmadi place of worship, Baitul Hamd, were demolished by the Korean city police in Punjab province. The demolition took place on the application of some clerics from a religious organization called Tehreek-e-Tahaffuz-e-Islam. Section 298B and C of the 1984 ordinance, which declares it illegal for Ahmadis to act or look like Muslims, to practice or propagate their faith, and to call their worship place a mosque. There is zero tolerance for Ahmadis and their practices in Pakistan. The hatred towards Ahmadis is not only limited to the religious extremists, but some people representing other political parties are also behind such activities. Like the worship places of Ahmadis, the publication of the sect have also been banned. Pakistan Telecommunication Authority banned a website which was controlled by the Ahmadiyya community. The District Coordination Officer of Chennai, Dr. Arshad Ahmad, issued order to immediately ban the publication because the Muttahida Ulama Board made the observation to cancel the magazine declaration. Although Ahmadis face threats from different enemies like Lashkar-e-Jangawi, Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, and Sipaha Sohaba Pakistan, but for them the worst enemy is Punjabi Taliban, which is affiliated to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. On 28 May 2010, 2 Ahmadi mosques were attacked by militants in Lahore, in which 86 Ahmadis were killed. Claiming responsibility for attacking Ahmadis worshipping places, Punjabi Taliban spokesperson Mansoor Mawia had termed the Ahmadis worse than Jews. He said, "No Ahmadi would live with peace in Pakistan. Our war against them and their followers will continue." Dear friends, December 2nd, 2012, a Pakistani Muslim builder agency demolished a century-old Hindu temple in Soldier Bazaar in Karachi. Pointing towards the huge debris of concrete, stones, and walls of the temple, Prakash, tears in his eye, said, "They destroyed our mandir and humiliated our gods." The demolishing team did place the statues of 4 Hindu deities on the site, but the residents accused them of taking away their gold, jewelry, and crowns. Another person, Lakshman, said, "They hit me with their guns when I tried to stop them. I told them to kill me instead of destroying our holy place." A woman named Bamri said, "I watched my house go down in just minutes and I couldn't do anything." Angered by the demolition, the Hindus demanded that the Pakistan government should arrange tickets to India for them. "If you don't want us, we will go to India," screamed a Hindu woman. Dear friends, imagine what hell on the earth would look like. Your family members are blown into pieces and massacred in front of your very eyes. The roads are ripped, blocked, and dangerous. People are paralyzed with fear. You are deafened by explosions and crying screams of pain and loss. Victims lie in hospital corridors. Doctors are either exhausted or massacred for saving lives. Babies are crying. They are alone, starving, and suffering. Bodies are dumped into carts and showered quickly into shallow graves. You can never sleep or rest, and you fear it will never end. This is no imaginary place. This is Quetta, Pakistan. It seems that there is a systematic attempt by mainstream media to completely ignore the atrocities and the rampant carnage. The most militant of them are touring the country under the banner of Defense of Pakistan Council, together with several political parties. Its militant members, Sipah Sohaba Pakistan, Lashkar-e Jangavi, and Jamaat Dawa, all have an ugly record of several thousand innocent Pakistani civilians' lives. They have openly embraced Taliban and denounced the military operation to curb these groupings. And if they do address such, they blame it on foreign elements. What can Pakistan's minority expect when the politician, who on one hand promise to safeguard minorities, on the other hand, alongside those who at point blank kill and incite violence? Dear friends, Pakistani Christians are slaughtered for faith in Christ. Christians of Pakistan have become one of the most vulnerable religious communities in Pakistan. All minorities have been affected, but Christians continue to be the main target. Innocent Christians have been killed in broad daylight, some burned alive. Churches have been attacked and Christian villages have been burned to ashes. It seems that there is no chance that the state will be able to undo the two changes to Pakistan blasphemy law. Muslims wish to see Pakistan's population 100% Muslim. They wish to make Pakistan a pillar of Islam where there is no place for minorities. A decaying state of Pakistan kills its religious minorities. According to a 2001 World Minority Rights Report, Pakistan ranks the sixth worst country in providing safety and rights to minorities. Friday Times reports on Pakistan's violation of human rights and religious freedom. Young non-Muslim girls are being forced to convert to Islam and marry Muslim men. Christians are becoming increasingly marginalized, and the country's blasphemy laws are being used to falsely accuse and imprison minorities. According to World Minority Rights Report 2011, Pakistan ranks as the sixth worst country after some African states in respect of safety and rights of minorities. In February 1997, the twin villages of Shantinagar and Tiba Khaluni in Multan division were looted and burnt by 20,000 Muslim citizens and 500 policemen. The police first evacuated the Christian population of 15,000, then helped the raiders use battlefield explosives to blow up their houses and property. Ladies and gentlemen, when the state of Pakistan apostatized the Ahmadis through an amendment in the constitution in the 1970s, some observers opined that the Shia community would be next in line for exclusion and slaughter. The politicians turned their face away. The judges are scared of the clerical backlash. Pakistan as a state is decaying and is eating its minorities first. For the non-Muslims, it is a prison from which there is no escape. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan was always dicey with its minority because of its ideology. But today, it is killing its minorities because it is killing itself as a state. In Pakistan, it was the army which nurtured them as the state's proxy warriors in Afghanistan, Kashmir, and India, and then surrendered to them its monopoly of violence. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan is a Muslim-dominated country. The evil of the day is multiplied by non-Muslims. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom and the Jacob Blaustein Institute for the Advancement of Human Rights say Islamic Pakistan is the most repressive of any nation in the world. Dear friends, discriminatory legislation favoring Muslims encourages the persecution of religious minorities. If radical Muslims gain control of the country, circumstances will be much worse. Religious leaders in Pakistan are like military commanders with the power to declare war. Radical Islam remains entrenched with oppressive laws empowering them to crush non-Muslims economically. Minorities are threatened if they do not convert to Islam. There is no freedom of religion to share their faith and crest with Muslims. Blasphemy laws carry a penalty of life imprisonment and even death in Pakistan, where the accused have little hope of justice. Many Muslims come to America to enjoy the freedom and escape the legalistic oppression of Islamic nations. The Pakistani government is so repressive. It cuts electricity to Christian slums to drive believers in Jesus Christ into the mosque to profess Islam or leave the country. The religious intolerance is certainly worsening, and that is what the world community must worry about. The blasphemy cases, grabbing of minority properties, bias in educational texts, discrimination and harassment at employment, abduction, and forced conversion and marriage of young Christian and Hindu women to Muslim are the calamities which the non-Muslim minorities are facing in Pakistan. Dear friends, the British foolishly created Pakistan in 1947 as a refuge for Muslims from oppression in India, not knowing how dangerous an Islamic theocracy can be in Pakistan. They had their non-Muslim neighbors in Pakistan. Pakistan is a manufacturing plant of terrorists. Pakistan is not only a militant nation of radical extremists. Weapons to spill blood are easy to purchase. Here we see a roadside seller of guns and other killing devices. In Pakistan, the non-Muslims are threatened to convert or die. Their neighbors covet their goods, their homes, their properties. The police do little for minorities to protect them and their property. Many become Muslims to escape oppression and persecution. Pakistani minority religions are suffering for economic discrimination. Pakistan is a third world country with nuclear power. When peace is taken from the world, Pakistan will show India and other world the real meaning of their branded Islam. Dear friends, Pakistan would be safer without nuclear power. Its intelligence service sponsors terrorists who attack American troops in Afghanistan. Geneva-based World Council of Churches has faulted the Pakistani government for its failure to protect minorities and lamented that they are living in fear and terror in Pakistan. My dear brothers and sisters from minority communities, I say run. Run and don't look back. Pakistan is not the place to live right now or any time in future. Live somewhere where at least you will be treated like a human. At least you would be able to live without the constant fear that you will be murdered at that very spot. Run and don't look back. Ladies and gentlemen, being a Sunni Muslim from Peshawar, I feel shame to be a national of such a terrorist, extremist, and hell for minority state of Pakistan. So I declare, I quit the nationality of this fundamentalist and violent state of Pakistan. I don't want to be a Pakistan national anymore. Our Baloch brothers are struggling for their freedom, and we the Pashtuns, occupied by Pakistan, struggle under the flag of Great Afghanistan Movement to liberate our land from Pakistan and annex our motherland, Afghanistan. And I assure my minority brothers and sisters that you will be living with us just like brothers, having equal rights just like any Afghan in Great Afghanistan. Death for the terrorist state of Pakistan. Long live Great Afghanistan.